Hello everyone, my name is Deepak Sharma. I'm a professional speaker and a speaking coach. Today was the day of World Championship of Public Speaking. 30,000 participants from all over the world participated and one took that championship trophy. And do you know who was she? She is Verity Price from South Africa. Yes. And today, we are going to share with you some of the golden nuggets from her speech. Some of the learning that we have picked up from her speech. Some of the learning we saw she's showing us on this virtual stage. And to help me with this, I have a very special person with me, Honey Khanduja, all the way from India. So let's get going and enjoy this journey of Verity Price becoming the world champion of public speaking 2021. Let's go. Hey, welcome Honey to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited today after listening to Verity Price, and I'm glad that you are here with me to pick up some nuggets that we can learn from this world champion.
Thank you so much, Deepak. I'm equally excited and happy to be with you here on your YouTube channel talking about the champion speech. I mean, I really loved it. And I think we are going to have fun talking about it, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So are we in for it?
Yes, let's get started.
Yes, let's get started.
Contestant number 4, Verity Price. A great read. A great read, Verity Price.
When I was a little girl, I used to love snuggling on my dad's lap while he read me fairy tales. Not surprisingly, I grew up wanting the fairy tale.
Honey, you know what I loved about Verity opening is she straight away dived in the story that she used to love listening to fairy tale sitting in her dad's lap.
And I think, isn't it what everybody used to do? I mean, isn't it very relatable to everyone in the audience, how they used to listen to stories and enjoy that moment with their parents? I mean, to me, this was very relatable. And obviously, I also wanted a fairy tale. So this was a strong connection that Verity established right here in the beginning.
Absolutely. Let's see further.
To be happily married with beautiful kids, a gorgeous home, and a great career by 30.
Exactly. I mean, everyone at their 30 would wish they would have all that, isn't it? So I exactly wanted that. And that is where Verity established a very strong connect with me personally as an audience. I'm very sure it was the same for almost everyone. A fairy tale.
I never dreamed I would turn 40, unmarried, no children, and living in my sister and brother-in-law's spare room.
Honey, you know, one of the most important part of any speech is when a speaker is talking about their frustrations and their failures. And she right now, in the beginning of the speech, came very strongly with 2 F's, her frustrations and her failures, how she was so frustrated sitting in that spare room in her sister's house.
Yeah. And isn't it the best trait of a storyteller also that she has put the audience into the perspective where there's a straight conflict from what she was saying. Fairy tale, where everybody wants everything happy, and then quickly to a conflict where everything is frustrated and the speaker herself is not very happy about it.
So I would like to tell my viewers that there are 4 F's. We always talk about your first, your flaws, your frustrations, and your failures. And she talked about 2 F's, her frustration and her failures.
Yes, exactly.
For my ego, this was a scary tale.
And in just one line, for her ego, this was a scary tale. She summed up everything so beautifully, and the transition from fairy tale to scary tale, I think it's well done.
And one another thing, when we talk about settings in any speech, she created that setting in the speech by putting the spare room on the right-hand side.
So I hid in the spare room. eating ice cream, and binge watching Netflix.
Honey, what do you have to say about this particular scene in her speech?
I think she has already placed the spare room on the right, and now she's actually telling audience what she used to do in the spare room. So she went to the spare room, she actually showed what she was doing, binge watching, watching Netflix, eating ice cream, and her very expression. I mean, I love her eyes and face, how she has put everything across with her emotion. What do you say?
Emotions of frustrations. Normally, when you're watching Netflix and eating ice cream, it's a happy situation. But here, she is talking about that she is sitting in that spare room and getting frustrated, not doing anything, eating ice cream and watching Netflix. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Contest chair, have you ever noticed that at your worst, you always run into someone at their best?
Hey, honey, here she comes with first reflection for audience and also for the contest chair. She is not like normal way saying, Mr. Contest Chair, fellow Toastmaster. She comes forward and say, Contest Chair, as if she is having a conversation with the contest chair, and said, have you ever noticed? She's not only talking to contest chair, but she's also talking to audience, and then give a pause for audience to reflect upon that, yes, when we were in our worst, we happen to find somebody who is in their best.
Yeah, definitely. And I love how she positioned herself in the center. So she came out from the spare room, put herself in the center, and that is where she takes the stance to ask a question.
The pause she took was amazing.
I had dragged myself to the shops just to get more ice cream, thinking no one I know is going to be there.
So, honey, look at the position that she has taken now, the slouchy body language showing her state of mind.
Yeah. And definitely, I mean, we'll see forward that how she beautifully portrayed also the very emotion that we're talking about. Let's go ahead.
But there she was, that friend. You know the one. Their life is perfect. And they tell you. Here I am, hand on fridge, stuck, having to hear how happily ever after she has ended up. Are you married? With kids? And your own business? And you bought a house? Me? Great.
Isn't it so natural? Isn't it so natural that we put our best faces when we meet someone, and especially when we bump into someone at a Walmart or a grocery store, and we seem to be happy about someone's success, but inside we are not. And I think she projected it really well, and she closed it with, yeah, I'm feeling great.
And the best thing is, when she asked, how are you doing? And she said, I am great. Before that, she looked back on the ice cream. Means she's basically communicating, I'm just eating ice cream, but she's saying, I'm great. She is doing double communication for her audience. For the conversation and the dialogue she's having with character, she is saying something else, but she is showing to audience that she is eating ice cream and she is not feeling great, but she's saying, I'm great.
Yeah, that's true.
One more thing, honey, I would like to add. She is master of pauses. When she said, I am great, she paused and looked at the audience.
Yeah.
As she is silently communicating to audience, you guys know what I'm going through.
Yes.
I wanted to die. I was a mess. My life was a mess. The spare room was a mess.
I hope you noticed, Deepak, that how powerfully she used the power of three, the rule of three. I mean, I'm a mess, my life is a mess, and my spare room is a mess. And the power of three that we say, the threes, actually make it so effective and so memorable. I would always remember these three things coming in order. And this is one of the powerful trait of the speaker, because she has used it not just here, but many a times in her speech. We'll see it
And
later
we'll
as
see it.
well.
We'll
Yeah.
see it. Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right.
But this was the mess where I found the last letter my dad ever wrote me.
So, honey, I have a small observation here. When she said this was a mess, I got little confused
Yeah.
at that particular point of time. But when she picked up the letter, I got the clarity. But one more thing here, at this point of time, you will see she's entering into her second story of the speech.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I hear you when you said that it was little confusing. I mean, to me also, it made sense when the letter was picked up from that mess. So
Absolutely.
let's see the next story.
Seeing his familiar handwriting just flooded me with grief. Verity, your life is a book. And if you're not enjoying the read, write a different story. And then watch for a miracle, because I'm watching too. I shouted miracles, Dad, and how? How do I write a different story about this?
Deepak, did you notice how her hands were shaking? Her voice was also a little shaky. It actually projected a lot of grief, and her eyes, I could find it moist. I think, again, a best portrayal of the emotion when you are reading a letter from your dad. Wonderfully done with the body language that she had.
The way she narrated these lines, you were very clear that she was feeling very sad. And suddenly that change in her vocal variety, wherein she brought in that shaking voice, left a big impact, especially on me.
Yeah, true.
One more thing. Have you seen she having conversation with her dad looking above in the sky?
Yes.
Very clear. She's asking her dad. Again, her frustration showing very clearly here.
Yes, that's nice.
So if you have seen Honey, she brought in the conflict first time in the story when she said, I was not doing anything at 40. And then the same thing got escalated and she got more frustrated when the friend was talking about that she is doing great. And third time now, when she is reading letter from her father, and even the father wrote in that letter that you have to write your own story, she is still feeling very frustrated and looking at her father, how should I write that story? So every time for audience, she is taking that conflict up and up and up. And for it means that she is escalating that same conflict from that 40 till now.
That's a very powerful observation. Yeah.
Prove my point, I went to Facebook. And you guessed it, there were no stories of miserable 40-year-olds living in spare rooms.
Isn't it so natural, Deepak? Like whenever we are feeling frustrated or whenever we are unable to decide our course of action, what we do? We go to Facebook or Instagram or any social media, we randomly scroll, and what we actually do is we are trying to see if there is someone like us, and we end up seeing all the people who are at their best, just like she mentioned. So I think that was so natural of what every one of us do. Again, a point where the speaker could connect with the audience very strongly.
Fantastic. I think this is a very great observation, Honey.
But the letter just lay there. It was like it was looking at me, almost whispering, write a different story.
Here comes the best moment, which I loved in this speech, where she come forward, take a stance, look at that letter as if that letter, which is actually an inanimate object in the speech, is talking to her, having a conversation with her, write a different story. It's a great learning for all of us that how we can bring in any inanimate object in our speech and make it speak.
Yeah. And the way she's taking a pause, coming in front of the camera, look at her eyes. It's like she's speaking through her eyes, and that's not her dialogue. That's the letters dialogue. Write a different story.
If anyone could write a different story, it was my dad. He wasn't a glass half full guy. He was a, aren't I lucky I've got a glass guy. When Dad was 60, he lost his job. We lost our home and we had to live in a camper van. But the story Dad told was, we get to live like we're on holiday. He never complained that he'd gone from a corner office to selling insurance, door to door. Instead, the story he told was, I'm working on my sales skills. And the miracle that happened, Dad was Salesman of the Year, and he bought us a new home.
Honey, here comes the introduction of the guru in the story. As they always say, there has to be a guru who comes and create that transformation in your life. Just for my audience, let me explain what guru is. Gu means darkness and Ru means dispelling the darkness. And guru means a person who dispels the darkness in our life. And in Verity's life, her father came as a guru. In this particular scene, she started talking about her father. He is not only a talker, he is a doer also. He was like that. Means a person who used to write different stories every time. So that builds a strong credibility for a person who is coming to transform the speaker. One more thing, Honey, I would like to add here. She beautifully showed us from the corner office to selling an insurance. It means when she talks about corner office, it means he was at a good position. And when she goes down and shows us to selling an insurance, it means he got demoted. So by actions also, she could have said from corner office to selling an insurance, but no. See her eye for detail in every scene she has worked on. This is what is called creating a masterpiece.
Yes, you master each piece and you get your perfect champion speech, I would say.
Absolutely.
And even in our last phone call on his way to hospital, do you know what he said to me? Don't worry, V. You know I love breakfast in bed.
People might see the voice modulation, but I really want to highlight one thing. The conversational mode of the speaker. Not just here, it'll come again at several instances. I think the best speeches are those in which the speaker is having a conversation with the audience. Do you know what he said? It's like she's talking to me. And it was so relatable when you ask a question and again connect with your audience. What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. As if she asked, do you know what he said? The answer came into my mind. No, I want to know about it. And then she started talking about it. And of course, as you said, the way she changed her voice to her father's voice. My God. And it is not like you're changing the voice to father's voice, but it is like as if somebody is sick and the person is speaking from the bed.
Yes. I was actually adding the same point that the voice is not just a natural transition. The voice is having that emotion in it. The voice is having that state of mind in that.
Absolutely.
Shame hit me like a bus. My whole life, Dad had been showing me how to write a different story.
Isn't it like for our whole life, our very inspiration, our parents, keep on showing it to us. They are the guru, but we do not follow them. Like we do not consider them. And that's a very powerful story element that she has brought in here, that her father showing her in action and she not able to follow it was shameful for her. What do you think?
And it's very relatable. It's very relatable because as you rightly said, that our parents show by action, our parents show by their words, our parents show by appreciations. But as we are going through a particular phase, we tend to not to follow them. And there's a big message also. Listen to your parents.
Oh, I picked up my pen.
So friends, have you seen when the guru comes, the next step is transformation. And here, exactly in this scene, the transformation happens in the speaker. Her language changed, her confidence changed, her body language changed. She takes a stance, very strong stance, very powerful and very confident stance in front of us by showing us, I picked up a pen. And we know now things are going to change in the story.
I looked at that friend and I thought, 40 is going to be my best chapter. I looked at the spare room and thought, this is my safe place to start over. I looked at my love life, and do you know what I thought? I have got to stop kissing frogs.
Wow. So many things to learn here, isn't it? First, the power of 3 again. I'm the best at my 40. The spare room is the best place. And then the love life. And also, Deepak, going back to what you said, placing the elements in your story. The friend is still there. The spare room is still there. And she's taking a stance in the center that I'm going to be the best at my 40. And not to forget, the phrase that she used, stop kissing the frog. What do you say, Deepak?
It's a beautiful phrase where she is giving a message also to people that you have to be like focus instead of going here and there.
And one more thing that I missed, an example for conversational approach in the story. The moment she said, she came to the third element, and you know what? Again, she's talking to the audience, bringing them back. So,
see, I will come back to this one word, you.
Yeah.
As they say, that when you are writing a speech, what is your ratio of I versus you? And if you look at her speech is full of you. The most powerful word in this world is you, not I. And we will see many you and you are coming in a later part of the story. But this is what she is expert at. She is master at, where she is continuously talking to audience and keeping them engaged throughout her speech.
yes, indeed.
When I wrote a different story, my life began to change. I went from feeling shameful to feeling grateful.
Wow.
And for the first time, I stopped worrying about where I wasn't. And I started enjoying where I was.
So friends, have you seen? When she took actions, she wrote a different story. And when she wrote a different story, she stopped feeling shameful. Instead of she started feeling grateful. She stopped thinking about where she wasn't and she started thinking about where she was. It's all about taking action. And she showed what action she took to get these kind of feelings.
And Deepak, I love the way you have observed, and I just want to reiterate for the users. The spare room is now looking good. And from where she was not, that is her left-hand side, she's coming to where she was feeling happy again. That was her right-hand side, where the spare room is. I mean, the setting plays a very important role in your speech. Audience, go back to where you actually started. Powerful.
Absolutely, masterpiece.
And the miracle that happened, within 6 months, I'd moved into a new cottage, much to my sister's relief. Within a year, I'd kissed a prince, much to my relief. At 44, I had a baby boy, much to my doctor's disbelief.
And wow, after the action, come the impact. So when she started writing a different story, she saw the magic happening and she shared the magic in a beautiful way. The power of 3. And this time in a very unique way. With the power of 3, she had relief, and then when the audience was just expecting another relief, She took a pause and delivered a punch that it was a doctor's disbelief. What do you think, Deepak? Wasn't it nice?
Between doctor and disbelief, there was a beautiful pause.
Yeah.
So that she was taking audience on a journey and then she suddenly derailed them.
Yeah.
This letter catapulted me into discovering that it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what chapter of your life you're in.
Honey, here she's telling what catapulted her. And again, power of three. Who you are, where you are, and in which chapter you are.
Yeah.
So again, she picked up that inanimate object and telling us that that inanimate object actually catapulted her to her new life.
Yeah.
And as Honey is saying, again, she used power of three. Who you are, where you are, and in which chapter you are.
Something as simple as choosing to write a different story can make difficult circumstances a lot easier to deal with.
Honey, here, she very clearly delivers her message that something as simple as write a different story to make difficult circumstances to make look easier. A very clear message to the audience, guys. Go ahead. You have a choice to write different story.
Now, I think you'll agree with me when I say the last 2 years have been a rough read for us all. But we've also written different stories. Ones where neighbors get to hate each other and businesses get to pivot and innovate. And my all-time favorite was that time when we all waved our wands and buppity, your room turned into an auditorium and mine, an international stage.
One of my observations, again, the conversation mode. I think you will agree. Again, she's talking to the audience. And what she did this time was she transitioned from her life to audience life. When she's saying
Absolutely.
that last 2 years were a rough read for everyone, all of us just get connected again. Because now she's talking about us, our story. And everyone knows that pandemic has brought in real changes, big changes in our life. But she put it so beautifully, again, in the power of three. Talking about the neighbors, talking about the business, and then talking about the Zoom calls we are always having. And what a beautiful way to say Zoom call. I just love her the way snippety, and boom.
This is something common to every single person in the world. Every single person means commonality connects. Who will not connect at this point of time? Like we all are relating to this particular situation with her. Beautiful way to relate, transforming from her story to audience story.
Yeah. And putting herself on the international stage, and the way she called it, and the way she called it an international stage. I mean, she's giving so much credit to this convention, to the World Championship speech. What else you would call for?
And the confidence, that how she turned around, the way she turned around and showed us that this is an international stage. Her room is international stage. So this itself shows a lot of confidence in her.
My fellow storytellers, do you know what I've learned? Fairy tales are great to read. To my son, real life is full of detours, delays, things that go wrong.
How she turned around and comes back to audience and says, my fellow storytellers. She is again conversing with you and telling you fairy tales are good to read. And we are again thinking fairy tales are good to read. And then she take a pause and says, to my son. And then she tells, the real life is not like that, my friends. So she has put in a beautiful words that life is not about fairy tale. Might find some elements of scary tale.
Yeah, true. And she put it in so simple words.
Yes.
Your life is a book. Then every day you get to decide, is your story being written for you or by you?
And now that she's actually she's encouraging audience to take action, to pick up a pen and write a story. which is written by you and not for you. And the way she's doing it with her hands open palm towards the camera, I think that's what she's doing really well. I loved it.
She's very clearly saying that you have a choice whether somebody writes your life story or you write your life story.
When my dad reminded me that I was the author of my life changed. So if you're looking for a change, you want a new chapter, or you just fancy a miracle, pick up your pen and write a different story. Trust me, it's going to make for a great read. Contest chair.
Wow. The title of the speech coming at the very end.
Absolutely.
Throughout her speech, she was just talking about picking up a pen, writing a different story. And then in the end, she's actually adding impact, saying, write a different story because it's going to be a great read. Now, that was the title, coming back, closing the loop beautifully and powerfully. What do you think, Deepak?
I think in the end, she asked audience very powerfully that my dad changed my life. If you want to change your life, pick up a pen and write a different story. Clear call for action. Beautifully summed up, beautifully closed. And as you rightly said, Honey, we heard the title in the beginning and then she closed the loop with the title. It's going to be a great read.
It's one of the speeches where I got the goosebumps and I got inspired to pick up my pen and start writing a different story. Many speeches we talk about the messages. How many speeches we talk about audience taking action? I'm very sure many of you are going to take action after listening to this speech.
I'm sure. And she actually motivated and inspired many people to take action. First of all, thank you so much for joining me to look at this speech and pick up those beautiful golden nuggets to share with our audience. If I have to sum up in 3 words, I would say clarity precedes mastery. She mastered every aspect of speech, eye for detail, and I as an audience were able to take away very clear message from her speech. And I know now what action I have to take. I have to go back and start writing a different story.
Yes, true. So for me, this was a takeaway that in this virtual world where all of us are trying to think out of the box elements to make a great speech, simplicity, being very natural and conversational approach is something that makes a great speech. I think, Deepak, I really enjoyed talking about this speech with you on the YouTube, and I'm very sure and I'm hopeful that people would love to share with us their comments or their feedbacks or anything that they learned in particular.
Yeah, please don't forget to share your comments, your learning, and what message you are taking home from Verity's speech. And finally, many congratulations, Verity, for this excellent performance. Way to go. And many new benchmarks being set on this virtual stage. Thank you, Honey. Thank you all viewers. Looking forward to many more videos with you on my YouTube channel. See you soon. Bye-bye.